Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, code it.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of their women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Paul also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, monk boy.
Great Scott. Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
The day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Welcome to Sci-Fi. I even screwed that. Welcome to Saturday Night Drive-In. Oh, what a glorious start. If you're watching the live stream, you know what just happened. If you're watching on the re-upload, then you're starting at this point. Welcome, one and all. I am Adam, the Renaissance Nerd, and this is the premiere of Saturday Night Drive-In, where we are going to just take every Saturday little time and have some fun with movies across the board, not limiting ourselves to one genre or another, because there's 100+ years of great movies out there, and we are going to enjoy them one movie at a time. And I'll be joined every week by my co-hosts right here, Jed the Hollywood Scholar and Lady Balefire. And we'll have guests as well as time goes on. We may even be joined by another guest tonight, but haven't heard back from him, so he may not show up. But that's all right. You guys know him. You love him. If he shows up, Dre, we will love you if you show up. If not, we'll see you tomorrow on Round Table. Either way, so let's say hi to our co-hosts and hail to the chat. Jed, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. Just been doing the grind as usual. A lot of Witcher content, having a back and forth with Daywalker Comedy, the voice actress, having a lot of fun with that. But I'm happy to have watched a good movie today. It's kind of a weird experience for me these days. So excited to talk about it and talk about some Babyface Cavill, the movie that we're going to be talking about.
Oh, yes. Babyface Cavill, yes.
Little baby Cavill, who grew up to say awesome things like this.
When it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have.
I can't believe that's the same man. Because, he was 18 or 19 when they filmed it. This movie.
Did.
So little.
Lady Balefire.
He's younger than I am now.
How you doing? Welcome to this show.
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, this is an interesting movie. I really enjoyed it.
It is, in my opinion, the best adaptation of Alexander Dumas's classic. And this is one of those classics that I'm actually glad they made us read in school. 9 times out of 10, I want to give them all the middle finger for the crap they made us read. But this is
I actually haven't read the book before.
Oh, it's really good. It's a
good.
Killer. It's long. It is so long, but I love it.
Yeah, they made us. It's one of those few that I'm happy they made us read in school. But so, Lady B, we'll start with you. This is the first time you saw this, and if you guys aren't familiar, this is Count of Monte Cristo. I'm racking up the
It's better than what my mom says. She says Monte Cristo, like the word.
Crisco.
All right, before we get started, before I ask you the question, hail and howdy to the chat. Welcome one and all. If you're watching this on the live stream version, we're glad to have you here. and I'm already getting it for being a boomer. I don't know what happened there. I've been doing this for over a year now with StreamYards, and that's never happened. So I don't know. Blame StreamYards, blame YouTube, but don't blame me. Anyway, Lady B, this was your first viewing of this movie ever, correct?
Yeah, I've never seen this before.
Okay, so just instantaneous feelings on this. How do you feel having just seen this? Was it yesterday or today?
I was really surprised with the actors in it because it had Guy Pearce in it, and I remember him from like Prometheus sequel where he was playing Peter Wayland, and I was surprised at the guy playing what's his name?
Jim Caviezel.
Yeah, that guy that he was like that one agent that's in like Marvel movies or something, isn't he?
Yeah, his only other big role is Jesus in Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, and well, he had
It's really familiar.
No, he had that show on CBS. It was what was it called? Chat. I didn't watch it. I know my mom watched it. She kept telling me to watch it back in the day.
Yeah. Okay, never mind.
Person of interest.
Yeah,
I beat the chat. Yeah, he had a really successful show. A lot of people love that show. He was in that, and he had other few movies here like Frequency with Dennis Quaid, and he does stuff, and he's kind of drifted away from it now. But it was, Jim Caviezel was great in this. I don't think you could have cast another guy. This is my favorite moment behind me where he's coming off the balloon. He's just like, yeah.
That was cool, but I freaking hated his clothes there and his hair. It's like they went off the reservation when it came to this part of the movie with that. But we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about
I liked it. I liked the story. I knew the story was revenge, and it was interesting because it could have gone off the rails and so many times in the story, but it didn't. And the good guy ended up winning. So that was nice.
You know what? Let's start right there because we're talking. This was made in 2002. It's based on Alexander Dumas's book. When written, I can't still remember. I should have looked that up and prepared. But
1859.
Thank you, Jed. That's why Jed's here. From centuries ago, but written. It's why these are timeless, because good guys, bad guys, revenge is not a bad thing. You don't have to forgive your enemies, and the bad guys don't have to be redeemed. It's refreshing to have a story where your antagonists get what they effing deserve. And I mean that is my favorite part of this movie. Watching the setup.
The setup is really good. It kind of like reminded me of Great Gatsby, like how he starts like just going total lavish parties and everything because he just wants this one thing. And like Gatsby isn't like a revenge story necessarily, but it's interesting.
And go ahead, you say something?
Oh, just real fast. Yeah, no, the thing that really impressed me carrying off what you were saying is, this movie could not be made these days, at least with any sort of accuracy. The thing that was really standing out to me that I didn't remember being as prominent because it didn't stand out as much as it used to, but the religious aspect of it, how Christian focused the story was. That could not be included in a movie.
Yeah, they never include that nowadays.
Never, but it is so evil. Fundamental. Like
over and over
would
again,
not be the same without the Christian aspect.
God is everywhere. He's in everything. There is no God in this room. He's left us. I mean, and seeing Edmond's struggle to push God out of his life and then find it again. That is an important aspect for him. So let's first talk about the casting. We've already started this. So I think we're all agreed. Jim Caviezel, great casting choice. He pulls it off. I love watching him go from naive, foolish Edmund, who is just completely lamb to the slaughter, babe in the woods in the beginning, and at the end, and then watching him lose it in the Chateau d'If, and then becoming this rage beast, and then the calculating man as the Count, and then executing his things, but then realizing that everything he loved is still there and it could be more. I loved his Caviezel gives off a great portrayal of the different stages of Edmond throughout this. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah. It was really good. I mean, like, I think the one thing that the whole like middle part where he becomes the Count, like that was the one like the weakest part of the movie, just because there wasn't a lot of like It's like all of a sudden he's just there and he's just doing stuff, and I felt like they might have had some like stumbling blocks, or maybe somebody should have maybe got that, but that wasn't really his performance. His performance was good.
Well,
I thought it was.
That's that period of time where he gets the treasure of Sparta and then starts going down. That's like a couple year period.
Yeah, that was something that initially
yeah.
happened, and I wasn't sure of the time passage because I did have to I had to watch it,
yeah,
pause it, and then do something else and come back to it. But yeah, the how much time had passed wasn't.
The movie actually makes it pretty clear. So it's in the scene where Mercedes.
I mean, when Mercedes finally, when we see the sun, like it becomes clear how much time has passed. But like I was still thinking they were on. Oh, they've just been in prison for like 4 years or something.
No. When Mercedes finally confronts him in the third act about making him admit he's Edmond, he gives the literal time. He does give the time. The movie does a good job right then of letting us know. And granted, it's the third act. Maybe it could have done a little sooner, but the movie does tell us 13 years in Chateau d'If. So you know that Mercedes was pregnant with their son. What was Cavill's
Albert?
Albert, yeah.
Albert.
With Albert.
Yeah, the pronunciation.
She was pregnant with Albert when he went away. So basically,
that was a fun little twist to the story. I don't know if that was in the book.
Oh, it was.
It
yeah.
was.
Oh,
yeah.
So wow.
This is an
That's
accurate
spicy
movie
for 1859.
Yeah,
it's France. They've always been kind of a little bit more risque when it came to those sorts of things. But yeah, this is one of the most accurate adaptations of a book I've ever seen, especially considering its limited runtime, because the book is massive. Talking like, it's got to be almost 1,000 pages long.
Wow.
They made it accurately in 2 hours so well.
Yeah, like I said, that's where you see. Look at us. We can be happy with a 3-to-1 adaptation instead of a 1-to-1. But if it's done with respect and you keep the important parts in there, we're going to be happy and you put a good cast in. But as I said, the Mercedes scene where she confronts him, we learned that, okay, he was 13 years in the Chateau d'If and then 3 years doing stuff. So when he got out from the Chateau d'If and gets picked up by the smugglers, he spent half a year with them. Then that's another 2.5 years. So after he,
because I think it just said 3 months later or something.
Yeah, it's just a few months later. So when he and Jacopo, played by we like Luis Guzman. Everybody loves Luis.
We
Guzman.
do.
He's great.
Yeah, he was funny in that role.
When him and
that would be an example of a race swap because Jacopo is French and Luis Guzman is Mexican. But
he could be Spanish.
He's perfect. Yeah.
And also, that's the Mediterranean. He could be Spanish. Doesn't matter. Because Luis Guzman
and does a great job.
He gives an outstanding
he does a good job of being like kind of somebody that's like a pirate, basically, that is not cultured or anything.
We'll get to Jacopo in a minute, but right there. So that means he spent 2.5. Once they go to Sparta, which is literally, I mean, they did that quickly because remember, it's not the geography sounds very large over there. Everything's really close together. So they got the treasure. That's 2.5 years because Albert is 16. It's his 16th birthday during Act 2. So he spent 2.5 years building up the persona of the Count of Monte Cristo. So it does give us that, but we had to wait for the third act to get exactly the passage of the time. So I will give you that, Lady B, that they kind of breeze over that and make you feel like it's instantaneous, but it is 2.5 years of him setting everything up so that he can just knock them down one at a time at his choosing. But again, Jim Caviezel, perfect. Let's move on to Guy Pearce as
Guy Pearce is good.
Fanon.
I like him. I wish he'd done more work. He doesn't have like a lot of like starring roles and stuff.
His teeth are disgusting in this movie.
Exactly what I was gonna say. The only problem I have is Guy Pearce's teeth in this movie. It's like I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah, like I wonder if that's
period accurate.
Yeah.
But that's true. That is true. But his presentation of Fernand is just he's an asshole from the very beginning. He's an asshole, and you buy into it again. Comedian's been an asshole, and we get a character that deserves no redemption. Today, with so much stuff,
Be like, I can save him.
I can save him. We get all this stuff where it's, oh, our villains they have to have a little spark of something in them. I mean, some villains, yes, when you build up a story over a long period of time, but
yeah,
this is a one shot. There would be no redemption because he betrayed his best friend because he wanted to screw his best friend's fiance.
Well, even those initial portions on the beach of Napoleon's Island, when that camaraderie still exists, is fantastic. Like just those few interactions on the beach, I can immediately believe they're best friends since childhood.
The fighting, and the fight scene, helping each other out. Yeah. So Guy Pearce,
I like how he threw a gun at that guy.
Oh, you finally hit something.
And the king of the moment deal.
Yeah, that's an excellent little thing. That's really cool because it's called payoff.
There's so much good of it, like the hair twirls, the king,
everything.
So many little pieces. Him saying Dantes, and they don't flash back to it. They trust you to remember he said it.
Yeah, or
it's like I'm a movie that trusts the audience.
And the lines, like I'm a count, I'm not a saint. I'm a priest, not a saint. It's like proper layering. And then, of course, in that final moment at the abandoned house where he opens the chest and there's the king. It's just like it's no. Doesn't even say king of the moment. You because the movie has set it up. You just know what it means, and it's also full circle, perfect. Because the last time we see that is when Fernand shoves it down his shirt as he's being pulled away to the Chateau d'If. And again, talk about payoff when he gets I'm trying to get everybody's names. Villefort when he completes the trap for Villefort in the sauna.
Yeah, that was so good. Like, because it's like I had to watch the part where like the priest kind of tells him what happened to him. I didn't immediately understand who had done what and why. I mean, obviously I got that like Fernand like had betrayed him, but like the other parts of it I didn't quite understand. But like when he went there, it was like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, and that's a brilliant scene. But I love how that scene again, payoff, full circle. Oh, you see the same type of wagon that Villefort tricks him into going into in the first act. And then he gets in there.
And then the gun's on the seat, and then he's going to shoot himself, and it's not loaded.
And he pops up. Oh, you didn't think I was going to make it that easy, did you? And then the music plays. It's like, dun, dun, dun. It's like, yeah. So, so I mean, but again, James Frain, excellent as Villefort. That guy could go back and forth on types of roles. Well, let's talk. How do I pronounce her name? Dagmara Dominzik as Mercedes. She does okay.
Yeah, she's okay. She has like kind of a strange accent going on, but it didn't seem unnatural.
Yeah, her name's not French. I think she's Eastern European. So
yeah. My only problem with her is that since I have a Blu-ray and it's all really crystal clear, I see like the blackheads all over her forehead in certain scenes, and it just makes it all I'm looking at.
I know the fact that she just doesn't age at all.
Yeah, that is the thing. When you got her standing next to Baby Cal, was like, damn, you had him 16 years ago. Honey, you are a MILF.
Milfy. She was pretty hot. I was happy with her.
Oh, yeah, she's an attractive woman. Definitely attractive woman.
You could definitely believe that Guy Pearce would betray his best friend to get with her.
Yeah.
Definitely. At least that's the first part of it. We know the later the lines about I should not be jealous of you. I'm a noble, that kind of stuff. Like, I shouldn't want your life. I shouldn't want the life.
Yeah, you were bookkeeper's son, and I'm the Lord. I should not be jealous of you.
Yeah, that's the deeper context. But it starts with him wanting to plow his best friend's wife or fiance. And it's fantastic. And then, of course, swinging around, the most important, I think, remaining character after Luis Guzman and Yagbo, we already talked about that great, is Sir Richard Harris.
Of course.
As Priest.
Another one of his final roles.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, this and the Harry Potter movies were really his last set.
Imagine
the first two.
Imagine if he had lived to be Dumbledore all the way through that.
Wow.
It's been a very different series.
Yeah. So Sir Richard Harris as the priest, it's an incredible to watch him. I mean, when his first appearance, when he comes up through first of all, you're like, what the fuck? But then the exchange and his delivery of, But when Edmond is saying, "I have counted every stone in here," and then he says, "But have you named them yet?"
That was funny.
And then, but the delivery, the combination of this, it's serious, but it's making light of the horrible situation. And then Edmond's breakdown, and he says, "Don't worry, you're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. You're going to be all right." And now we got each other. And now, I'm, Jay, you know where I'm going with this. I can see that smile where I'm saying, in today's stupid modern era, the woke
they never have that.
The Marvel quips.
Not even that. They'd probably have them be gay together in today's world.
Probably.
Instead of two men who are bonding over their incarceration, their desire for freedom, and master and apprentice, master pupil. I mean, let's talk about that. We're going to jump around, guys, so be prepared for that. The Edmond's education. It's a fascinating montage because that's how Priest gets him into being a part of escaping. You'll teach me to read and write, because Edmond knows at this point, or he understands, that his illiteracy played a role in his false accusations. If he had been able to read Napoleon's letter, maybe none of this would have happened.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. But I didn't think he opened it either.
He wouldn't have opened it. I was going to say, Edmond was an honorable man. He would not have opened Napoleon's letter either. But, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, the thing that I really liked is the choice of books that they used for the education, specifically Machiavelli's
The Prince. Yes.
The Prince is a perfect novel for someone in his situation because of his revenge orientation, the type of stuff that the Prince exemplifies in his strength of character. And
it's a good book. If you've never read that before, you should.
We read parts of it in high school. We did it during when we were studying that era, and I learned who Machiavelli was. The manual for how to screw people over but get away with it.
It's like cunning the manual, and that's kind of what he needed. That's exactly what Edmond needed.
Yeah, and then he had that economics book. What was that? I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's a good book too.
But I mean, all of it is. I love the education of Edmond as he slowly gains strength, gains power, and it just shows you the idea knowledge is power. And first he built his brain, he built his mind, and then he says, "Priest, you were a soldier. Teach me to fight." Because we watched
the little sticks made from the door.
Well, hey, it's a tool and it's a practice tool either way. Ah, yes, he has made it.
Oh, yes.
Welcome.
Our representation has arrived.
We are discussing. We've gone over the casting and how good it was all the way through, from Jim Caviezel all the way down to now we're talking about Sir Richard Harris, and we're talking about the education of Edmond in Chateau d'If. So, give us your thoughts. We're talking about how do you feel about that scene?
So, I love what I like to consider that scene as is the training montage. And I think when it comes to training montages, it is honestly the best because it shows a good passing of time. It shows how he learns. It shows how he goes from an ignorant boy to the most intelligent man in all of France. It's tremendous. It's a wonderful scene. I love the priest. And everything about that works so well. I love that. You
know what's good about that training montage too is, in addition to the training part you have going on, they're also doing the escape plot. So they're digging the tunnel, and you're they find that you think they're gonna get out that way, and you're they're doing the calculations. He's learning math by calculating the amount of dirt they can get out, and then it's a great fake out, and it's a good thing because it's not it's not like a mystery box or something like that. It's just okay, they do it. It doesn't work out.
There's so much going on in those scenes. You have to pay attention, and I miss movies like that. There was a whole era of these types of movies in the 90s, especially, of mainly a British cast, British productions, about French stories, a lot of French stories, and they just did it so beautiful, these historical fiction films. And I miss movies like this, like the Hornblower movies. And
those are good.
It's
I watched
really
it
good.
once. I think it was a TV show. Was it? Or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. They're probably the same ones we're talking
It's a
about.
show.
Yeah.
It's a collection of TV movies that they've come to call a show.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So again, we love it. We watch his mind, and then it's like, train me to fight. And the priest doesn't want to do it. And I love the line where it says, "You're asking me to walk a very fine line, Edmond." And he's like, "But I need to do this." And then, as Lady B brought up before, when we were talking about the setups, the moment there's a pause in the montage where he actually puts all the pieces together of everybody that's effed him over. He understands. He knew that Fernand had done it, but then learning that Villefort was the second player in this.
He's like, who was he protecting?
Yeah, it's like, oh, and his actual, and he just like trashes their small little table. It's like,
Hulk smash.
And it's just,
and that outburst is so warranted.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
because he was innocent.
You feel it. And at that point, he thinks everybody, he even thinks Mercedes has betrayed him at that point. He thinks everybody's out to get him. So he's, and to bring back to what Jed said, the role of God being so important in this, he has abandoned his faith at this point.
And that's what it said, like he wrote in this thing, and that's like the last image of the movie is like, what does it say? Like, God will bring me justice or something.
Yes. That was the previous tenant of his cell had carved that in there, and before he could read, he would just trace it over and over again until it was indented in there. But go ahead. No, go ahead.
That outburst, I think, is a really important scene as well, because just like you were mentioning earlier, when he decided he wanted to read and write because that played a part in his imprisonment, that moment, his outburst, is he realized if he had been more intelligent and figured out in that moment that the name was what took him to prison. If he had not said that name, he would have been totally fine. He would have been free of all charges and left. And so if he had been more intelligent at that moment, he would have walked free. So that, I think, is a reinvigoration for him to excel at everything more than he previously had. And that's what made him the excellence of intelligence and physical prowess, was that moment when he realized that simple decision of saying that name would have been all better if he'd been smarter.
I know, it's just great. And then I love it how during the montage then, when you get to the anniversary whipping, he's just speaking in Latin. And he's in another place while the guy's beating the crap out of him. You can see he's just calm and collected while what was the warden's name here? It's not listed here. I'd have to go deeper into the cast list.
I gotta say, I really liked the warden.
Me too.
He's a career villain.
Yes,
he played the villain in The Crow. He was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
He was
apparently
also
this had the same director as Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Did it really?
Oh,
yeah.
Well, the other big role that the warden had was another Alexander Dumas movie, The Best Three Musketeers movie with Kiefer Sutherland.
A Disney movie that was actually he was the villain in that one. Yeah.
He was fantastic in that. He's still one of my favorite movie villains.
That's
movie
the best. Him. That is the best adaptation of the Three Musketeers.
So he's in two phenomenal Dumas adaptation films.
Yeah, and one thing I really liked, one scene that was really poignant to me, was when he first arrives at the Chateau d'If, and he approaches all the bailiffs and everybody's there, and he says, like, "I know you must hear this a lot, but I am innocent."
Yeah.
And the warden says,
"Yeah, that's
of course you're innocent. That's why you're here," and everybody laughs. But then he looks at him and said, France has tons of prisons that you could have been sent to. You've been brought here because you're the ones that they're ashamed of. And I thought that was so powerful, because it reaffirms that it's not about your innocence or guilt. I know you're probably innocent. I can look you in your eyes and know you are. But you are put away here for shame.
Yep.
And that joint hit hard for me. That joint was
because it's the corruption. It's the absolute corruption, and it hits home. You're right. It completely hits home, and it's just wow.
It creates a degree of nuance to the whole Napoleon issue because yes, Napoleon was a conquering tyrant, but he ran France better than really any other ruler had at that era of the time because the aristocrats were incredibly corrupt pre the French Revolution in the 1790s.
And he ended the reign of terror. He ended the reign of terror.
Robespierre was a terrible leader after the French Revolution or during it. And then, yeah, he was a conquering lord, but when he really settled into his emperor role, things ran. And so there is something to be said about that. And the comparison between the government once he's been imprisoned on the island versus when he was in charge is an interesting comparison to make. Yes, of course, he's an evil man, but he was effective. So it just some nuance that I really appreciated. Even like, what's his bucket? Dantes was not off put by Napoleon. Like when they met, he didn't like act like he was some demigod of villainy. He was just like, oh, hello, sir.
Oh, hey, what's up? It took me a second to figure out who he was. I was like, what?
Yeah, well, the guy that got to play Napoleon didn't quite look the part. But,
no, not quite.
But it was okay. But he's there for the line of emperors and pawns and this and that, and that's a great line. And you love that when later on, after he's free. And he's going to leave the smugglers. He goes, emperors and pawns. Everybody has their part to play. And his smuggler buddy says, where'd you hear that? Who told you that? Bonaparte, Napoleon.
Kind of like, what?
And the guy's like, I love you. You're so funny, Satara. You're so funny.
It's like, no, really.
Yeah, no. But so for as the cornerstone of the first act, the Chateau d'If stuff is it's magnificent, and the escape. That it again, it's nice. It's action, and it's good action. And Edmond gets his revenge on the warden with the fight to get out of the sea, and it's all good. And I love after my favorite part of that is actually the bailiffs are going, "Uh-oh, we're in trouble."
We could have handled that better.
Like what just happened? That was funny. I love how, I love the reverse of the plot. It's like goes from we're gonna get through a tunnel, the tunnel collapses, kills the priest, and then he's like, okay, he's gonna body switch, and I was like, that's cool. That was cool, smart.
I could have done a whole movie, been fine with a whole movie just about that prison deal at the chateau. Like I love movies like that. Like The Great Escape is a classic one, and so I just love stuff like that, like tunneling, the math behind it, dealing with guards. Unbreakable is another great book about that. So yeah, I could have dealt with that a long time. And this movie is kind of what set a cliche. Like at this point, trading out in escaping as a corpse is a cliche at this time, but it's because of this book, because of this movie that is a cliche. So it sets a standard for how to do stuff.
But like the good part with it was that it wasn't like he planned that. Like that wasn't their plan, and it just happened. And he's like, he's upset because a guy died, and then he's thinking, and he's like, oh wait.
But he is evolved in his thinking that suddenly in that moment that to like Dre said earlier, he is now evolved. And he has the quick wit, the quick thought to put the pieces together. It's like, oh shit, this is my way out. This is my way out, and I got to take it. And he gets out, and then we move into the beginning of Act 2, and he joins the smugglers. And we'll talk. What I like about what we start with Act 2 is relationships are one of the most important themes of this movie, and betrayal and this and that. But I love the creation of the relationship between Edmond and Jacopo.
Yeah.
And we already talked about it, how even though Jed pointed out it is a race swap, nobody cared because Luis Guzman just nails it. And I love loyalty. I love characters that portray loyalty, because whenever I see a character like that, I always want to look and see, why is this character so loyal to their master, for lack of a better term? And here you get it in this nice, tight little scene of there's a reason Jacopo is going to be loyal to him forever. He saved his life. He showed him mercy, and he offered him a way out of all of this. And of that, now I am your man forever. I know you are. And I loved that. I love the loyalty. I love their relationship. And how, even though going through the story, Edmond doesn't always realize that Jacopo is there to the later line when Edmond is almost going off the rails because he's ready to visit vengeance upon Albert, not knowing that it's his son yet. He's reading those up, and Jacopo basically says, take the woman, take the money. You have everything. You don't need to do this. You could be free of this. He says, no, I have to. And he says, after he let Mercedes into the wagon, and he says, I'm here to, I am your man forever. I'll protect you from everything I can see, but it's also my job to protect you from yourself.
For yourself, yeah. You know what that line needed to be in House of the Dragon.
I can't
David
speak to
needs
that.
to tell that.
Drake can speak to that. I mean, I'm sorry.
David
Jack can speak that. I can't.
To have that.
There's
that
a few
their
moments with that.
relationship was like that. Not what we got in that show.
Well, there's also an interesting comparison to be made between Jacopo and Edmund with Sam and Frodo from The Lord of the Rings, because the movies changed their relationship quite a bit to be more of a brotherly relationship.
More of a buddy-buddy.
Yeah, in the books it was master and servant, and it was very similar relationship to how the movie portrayed Jacopo and Edmund. That's basically what Sam and Frodo were in the books. And so there's different ways of doing it. I love the brotherly relationship in the movies, but the master-servant relationship where it's loyalty to the 10th degree is just a fascinating exploration that I'm glad we got to see on live action like this.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, and then, I mean, again, we get the time skips. We talked about this before. We get the time skips. We've established that when we get back to Marseille and everything rolls in place and Edmond learns what's going on, they get the treasure, and then we get the buildup.
I thought it was nice, too, when he went back to the old guy and he just, like, realized that he had lost it and he didn't remember who he was. And then he just, like, I got it at that point. He didn't have any money at all, barely, and he just left him everything he had.
Got his cut from the smugglers. Got his cut.
Yeah, he got his cut. Well, I do want to say real fast, I love the line from Jacopo right after they find the treasure. He's like, what are you going to use this treasure for? Revenge? Oh, who do you want revenge on? List the names. Oh, I could do this pretty fast. I'm going to run up to Paris, bam, 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 and then we come back and spend all the money.
It's like,
it's like bam, bam, bam. Let's do this.
They have to suffer.
Yes, and that's one of my favorite lines in this movie. I've used this line so many times in my life, it doesn't even make any sense. Like every time when somebody's on my nerves, whatever the case may be, and people will be like, Drake, just end these people. I was like, no, death is too good for them. They must suffer as I have suffered. I'm like, lubricant, please. I need it. I need it right now.
Dre, we talked about this before you got in, how it's so refreshing to have a story where the villains are villains and the heroes are heroes. So, I mean, how do you feel about having this on display for us where the villains are bad and they get what they freaking deserve?
And that's always a good film to see. And what I like about these villains, how they're multifaceted. Like Count Mondego is like our typical rah-rah evil bad guy. You know what I'm saying? And like he's typical, but then there's always these seeds of corruption, all the lines that go all over the place that always lead to the same bad guy. But then there's a villain in this that I personally consider a villain, but it may be controversial. That a lot of people may disagree with me. Mercedes is a villain. Okay.
Make your case. Make your case.
Mercedes is a villain in this. Now, of course, a lot of people justify her actions is that she was, like, oh, she was pregnant with his child and the whole 9 yards, blah, 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 blah. That's why she hooked up with him so quick. The reality is it was self-preservation. Let's call it like it is. It was self-preservation.
I agree.
You did not stand by your man. That was wrong. You did not stand by his family. You did not stand by any of those. You chose the easy way. Hold on, Adam. I know you're itching. I know you're itching. She didn't stand by her man. She didn't stand by his family. She decided to take the easy way out and get with Count Mondego. Now, granted, her life was miserable. Her life was trash. She suffered for her choice. Make no mistake. But if I had to classify her in a way, I don't classify her as a damsel. I don't classify her as an anti-hero. She is a villain, and even especially from the perspective of our protagonist. And he even lists her by name.
Yeah,
and so from his perspective, I can see that. I mean, that's just me, Adam.
I'm going to counter you on one point in there. She thought he was dead.
That's true.
As soon they were all, when we get the flashback to the office where Villefort is spinning the tale right before him and Fernand make their deal after they leave, they think she thinks he's they doesn't tell her where he is, and then they find out he's dead. And that's the only point of counter. She doesn't stand by her man because they don't know where he's vanished. He's poofed. He's been disappeared. I'll give you the point by not standing by the family. I'll give you that because, yes, it was going to be her family, but it was him, not the family. So I'll say, okay, a little cold-hearted, especially since the father kills himself. Edmond's father hangs himself over Shane.
Yeah, that was sad.
That's sad that he dies thinking that his son was a traitor. That's sad. But I honestly see nothing wrong with the self-preservation part because this is pre-revolutionary France, and a pregnant woman, possibly of a traitor. I see nothing wrong with her doing that, basically jumping into bed quick, getting married quickly so that she can have the smex quickly, the snoo quickly, so that Fernand will think that is the next Mondego heir. So I'm not going to vilify her for that because that's purely self-preservation. And she would think, and I agree, it's an excellent choice of words, self-preservation. That's her only road in life there.
Yeah.
That's the only way she's going to survive because she can't work. She can't do anything. Her only choice is then to be a whore. That would be it, to be a painted lady.
Plus, it's like she was a commoner too, and he was like a count, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was high station.
Yeah.
But
I think I do it in town.
Dre first, then Jed. Dre first, then Jed.
So like Adam, like your points are valid. You know, and that's what I'm saying. Like I think my thoughts are a bit more controversial in that aspect. Because like you said, like when you look at the time period, you could look at, you know, that women didn't have careers, things of that nature. But of course, from his perspective, he doesn't know what's happened, obviously.
Yeah.
But from my perspective on the outside, looking into of everything that's going on, what I see is, I mean, like let's just say for the sake of argument, she didn't get with Count Mondego. Okay, let's say she just got with whoever else, whatever. She literally chose the most powerful dude in town to sleep with, to then trick the dude into thinking that this was his baby.
It's cold-blooded.
It's cold-blooded.
But I'm okay with it. Because
this is my thing, Adam. Like, I know that he is the bad guy. No question. No question. But at the same time, her actions were villainous towards our villain.
Yeah.
In a way.
Because, well, I mean, I can't argue that, but I'm okay with it. Because it's survival.
Cool.
I'm okay with it because it's survival. It's survival. And I do the same damn thing to survive back then if I was a pregnant woman.
Well, to bring it back to when I was comparing it to The Great Gatsby, I mean, look at the situation. It's basically like the same thing. Like Gatsby and Daisy were in love with each other. They couldn't marry because she was like really rich and he didn't have anything. He goes and fights in World War I and gets all these businesses and rich and is throwing the same kind of parties. But like Daisy just married this rich guy and she's unhappy, and it wasn't that situation where she made the choice to marry this other guy and then be an asshole in the rest of the book,
But as soon as she sees Edmond, she immediately flips back.
She knows him. Yeah, she's like, oh my God, that was so sad.
It's like, okay, oh, that's him. Oh, she does then immediately stand by her man. No, even when he's trying to tell her I'm not Edmond, and we'll get to that. Jade, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just real fast. I think I kind of fall in between the two of you on this because, yes, I do feel for the reasons that she made the decisions, but they were definitely cold hard, like you both said, and to the degree that he should not get back with her. Like, maybe not get revenge on her, but just he needs somebody else because she is not the woman that he needs to be with at this point. And if it weren't for the child, it feels like a very toxic relationship at the end in like the modern sense of like, hey, it's the girl, the single kid with all the red flags you can't trust, who's locked you down with the baby, and it's just going to be entirely manipulative.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I get like everything's just going to be fun, and they're all going to hug each other and walk off into the sunset.
I do kind of feel it, but hang on 1 second. A sneeze. Okay, went away.
It was really funny though watching that like Montez be like so much of a nicer guy than his actual dad.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though. I mean, I'm going to defend Mercedes. Because because she keeps the rope ring on. She always kept the faith. She always kept the love, and she immediately goes back to him. And it's her love that brings him away from going maybe too far. Because we're at the beginning, we're at the climax of the third act, and she wakes up after they've had their reconciliation snoo. And he's gone, and Jacopo comes in and says, "You are to get your son and your things. The Count is ready to take you away from here. We're ready to leave the country. We're going to leave. We're done." Of course, Edmund's going to go. He's going to kill Fernand, but that's a whole different thing. But she turned him for the most part. He was going to do the one last thing, and that would have been it. And in the end, I love his final line in the movie when they're at Chateau d'If, and he says, "I bought this island. I bought the Chateau d'If thinking I'd destroy it, filled with hate, but now I'm here." And he looks at his family and Jacopo, who's essentially family. And now I understand that I'm leaving this place with everything that I care about in this world, and we're together. And see, I think that Mercedes is what kept him from going full dark side.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He did rightful justice. Like yesterday when I was playing when I was playing some medieval dynasty, and some ruffians smacked my boy around, and he came crying to me about it. And then I went to the wifey, and the wifey says, "Are you gonna do something about it?" I say, "Yeah, damn sure I'm gonna do something about it." She goes, "Okay, there's a blacksmith over in this town. He makes good tools. Go get one." So I go to the blacksmith, and I get there, and he says to me, "What do you need, boy? What do you need, my friend?" I say, "I need a tool. Some stuff happened." He goes, "Oh, I got the perfect thing for you. It's called the obligator. What do you need it for?" And by one line response, the only option is justice. So I took the obligator, and you can go watch the stream. It was a clusterfuck of me trying to kill these bandits because I killed them. Well, I failed the first time. Camera fail. Well, they're bandits everywhere. But it was camera fail that got us. It was camera fail. And then I kept reloading it because then I ran around so much I lost track of their camp, and Mustang was there at that point, and I kept reloading it, and I died a couple times because of lag and more camera fail, and the game cheated. It leashed a guy, and then he wasn't there, and then he appeared out of nowhere and stabbed me with a spear. Point is the sense of justice. When he goes to finish off Fernand, he's still in justice mode, and I believe that Mercedes kept him from going too far dark side. So that's
beast mode. Yeah.
Beast mode, rage mode. So that's part of my defense of Mercedes. I
do have to say, I had a terrible thought when you were talking about the everything that I love walking off this island. If they made a modern remake, it wouldn't be the mentor that would be the gay love interest. It would be Jacopo. After you said that, everything that I love, and he's staring at Jacopo in the eye. It's like society will always keep us apart. So I got my beard, this Mercedes chick. But you're the one who's walking off this island that I hate
love. That you're right. I hate it that you're right. That they would just ruin it left and right. I don't know. But that's
darn it, Jed.
You know what I really liked about this movie, as somebody that's historical reenactor, is that the costumes were super accurate. In most instances, except when he goes.
He doesn't like this.
Cristo.
He doesn't like that right there. I love this.
That
scene.
Is bad. It's a good scene. It's just what he's wearing is so wrong. Like the fabrics are just awful. Like I remember the time because it was early 2000s, and I was started making my own costumes a lot more than I had before. And I would go down to downtown LA, and that whole like flocked velvet on like jewel toned colored like fabrics was really, really hot. And I hated that they made so many of the costumes out of that because the cut of the stuff is perfect and it fit the guys really well and it looks super hot. But like, that fabric just, it's awful.
I like the cape. I like it.
And the only problem is like when he eventually goes to Albert's birthday party, it's definitely in the 1830s. They went from 1820s to 1830s, and Mercedes is wearing an 1820s dress, so she's like behind the times. Yeah, okay. and the color and what it was made out was really ugly too. I was like, but
I didn't like her dress in the in that act. That scene, it's like little.
It's like an Empire dress. Like it's really 1820s cut. I wore it for Halloween. I had a similar dress, and I dressed up like Mary Shelley, and that was really fun. And I was just like, yeah, that's so bad. And I hated like his hair when he was the count. It just looks so bad. I was like, ugh, so dated.
Well, it goes through several phases.
Do that? I know. But by the end, he changes it and he shaves.
This is phase one. As he by the end, he has a little more grown out, and
yeah, he looked better then.
Whether it's passage of time or they just did a reshoot, who knows? It was different time reshoot, but I think
they were just making him look different by
every time. Well, I like his by the third act in the climax, he looks badass at that point. The hair's working.
Yeah, he looks more like he did in the beginning. So that was nice.
I love his dueling costume. I love dueling costumes where it's like the white fluffy, the black gloves. I just love that look when it comes to rapier duels.
We'll get to the duel. We'll get to the combat. We'll get to the combat. I want to talk about in Act 2 the setup. We talked about it before. We touched on before the beginning of the setup because it's 2.5 years after he gets the treasure of Sparta and he's the count, and now he's in Paris and he's laying all the traps. I love it. Every little bit of it.
That's so smart. He's like going and buying out the companies. Like,
I love it how you see every little part. The Monte again. This to Dre's point earlier. They make excellent use of montages in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent execution of montages.
You know what they needed, and I'm gonna go to the Gatsby story again. Is like in the beginning of that the latest movie version, they're like, "Who is Gatsby? Like, where did he get all this money? What did he do? I heard he's a bootlegger." Blah blah blah. Like they needed something kind of like that. So there was maybe some questions, or I don't know.
Well,
you think it should have been a built up of a mystery for his big reveal to the people, like I
didn't feel like, I mean, it made sense, and I didn't have a problem with it at all. I just think that would have been a nice little thing. I mean, they do kind of show it at the party, like, who is this guy? Like, where did he come from? But there was maybe a little like, oh, like, is somebody gonna find him out? Like,
see, I don't think it needed that because it's an era where you can't find that shit out. And he's a count from Italy. I mean, that's Monte Cristo. That's an Italian. That's off the coast of Italy because Sparta. I mean, but it's completely mystery, and I love it that I love the aspect that no one's gonna figure out because all they see is the pomp and circumstance. They see this balloon. They see the fireworks. He's coming down. They get these lavish invitations. Villefort's wife smells the perfume on it as she gets like, ooh, this is fancy. Ooh, we can climb higher social status by doing stuff with this guy. I love all that, and everybody is just caught up in it, and they're not going to ask questions because he's showing his wealth and his power, and that's all that matters back then: the wealth and power. This is pre-revolutionary France. If you were a lord,
post. I don't
know why I said that. Post-revolutionary France. At that point, it's. They're still struggling to have a real government at this point. They've just pushed back Napoleon again a couple 16 years prior. I mean, it's not a solid time. They're still owing. There's the continuing worry.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point where they wouldn't be like, well, who is this guy? If it was so, I kind of forgot that. I'm not like huge, like usually read on specific history stuff.
But Lady B, to your credit, I understand where you're coming from. I think that too, that could have been an interesting element to add. But the only difference between The Great Gatsby and this one, in that regard, is that the audience in The Great Gatsby hasn't seen Gatsby yet.
So that's a good point. Yeah, because it's building up on who is this guy and what is he doing. That's a good point.
Exactly. So from our perspective, we spent at least a good 35-40 minutes getting to know Edmund.
Yeah, right now I can tell you.
Yeah.
We are
we
1 hour, 18 minutes in. This is the reveal. 1 hour, 18 minutes. So you're over an hour of the build-up of the reveal of the Count of Monte Cristo coming to Paris.
And I think like as cool as that may be, Lady B, if it was if this film was shot, let's just say for the sake of argument, this scene of his reveal is first in the entire film. Let's just say that this is the first.
That would make more sense. Like I said, I don't think it like needed it. It could have been something that might have enhanced it a little bit, but it wasn't something that made it like me not like the story or didn't poke holes in it or anything.
But picking up what Adam was saying about the historical part of things, a lot of the royalty and nobles of the land had been killed in the revolution about
that's
30
something
years,
I
40
forgot
years
too.
prior.
So I'll say
So-
that like that makes it make more sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
so there's a lot of new nobles coming in, the ones who had survived in France because of, or in England because of people like the Scarlet Pimpernel, and then foreign nobles. They specifically said he was a foreign noble coming in and buying up land to become a count. It was the entire aristocracy had been annihilated, so it was now populated exclusively by newcomers after the 40 years since the revolution. So a new random newcomer, not all that uncommon for the time.
Which
that's
makes
a good point.
It's a fascinating line then at the end when Fernand is saying, know that the blood you're about to spill is noble. And thinking in an era where in France, it's not a big deal more. Now you go to England, the nobility is still intact. All the houses, all the lines, and from barons to earls, because earls and counts are the equivalent. Earls to dukes to marquesses, everything, marquis in France. Either way, it's all different, and everybody's mind. So, and it's if you have the power, you execute the power, and that's
Well, for Fernand, this is my mere assumption. They don't really talk about it in the book, as far as I remember, but he probably wouldn't call himself noble blood if his father was the first count in the family post-revolution. He would have been the first one. So I'm assuming his family must have been one of the ones who escaped to like England or something like that. That's the only way I think he would call himself actually noble.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that that's the way it has to go. But it's a fascinating. That's the socioeconomic structure there. So no one is going to credit. Now, there's nothing wrong with Lady B's thought track on that. She's just looking to, okay, it would have been interesting to expand it this way. And in a,
doesn't make it, you don't have to, because I didn't think of the historical context to not need that. So,
but to your point, let's say they did and I say this in the non horrible way that we know it now. If they did a modern reinterpretation of it, where it's a modern Count of Monte Cristo, then your idea to put in the can somebody find it out? Can a good hacker trace back that he has built himself from a fake account? That would be a good storyline within a proper modern.
If I had to come up with like a thing, it's like I'd probably just have him like pay people to start rumors about him.
That would be cool too.
Well, either way,
but not like you don't need that. Like I said, it's just
you don't.
That I thought about, and then with the historical context, like okay, that actually makes sense. So I don't even care about that point anymore.
This conversation also helps explain something that I've seen other people have issues with this movie. Like the first time I watched this movie with somebody else, they were confused at why Ferdinand was on the boat and why he'd grown up with a commoner like Edmund. It's also an effect of the revolution, because once they come back to their lands, they weren't really noble yet. They didn't have any money yet. So while Ferdinand's father was rebuilding their wealth, he had to take a job as a sailor, and he grew up with Edmund because of that. And then once the family wealth was reassured, that's when he took his status as count post the initial effects of the movie, because the beginning of the movie only takes place about 15 years after the revolution. So that's not a whole lot of time to rebuild a wealth that has been annihilated.
You don't know the history so well, you lose a lot of the context, but it's so awesome because they did such a good job of integrating the context and the setting of the story into the story that it's like, oh, that's wow. You don't see that now.
It's what lore does in book series when it's adapted properly. That's why lore is important.
It's like history is important too, and you shouldn't change super historical characters. I mean, it's like one thing to have Luis Guzman play Jacopo. He's a fictional character. But let's say to change certain characters in certain lands where certain colors of skin aren't there. It's just it doesn't make any sense to change actual historical characters. Talking about Anne Boleyn.
Wait, we're in the second act, so can we just have a moment to appreciate young Henry Cavill?
All right. We haven't done that yet. We have not talked about young Cavill. We might as well talk about, because that's part of the Act 2 setups. After Edmond has started to basically set the stage to bankrupt Fernand by buying up all the banks and basically buying up his debt, which is brilliant. It's freaking brilliant. He then learns that he has the son. And of course, he thinks it is.
I was really worried he was going to do something really bad to him.
Well, and now, so then we get Baby Cavill.
Yeah,
his voice isn't even dropped yet.
I know. At one point, when we first meet Albert and Baby Cavill arrives on the scene, he's asking to go to Rome for holiday.
Like, Father,
when he comes out on after he convinces Fernand and Mercedes to let him go, he runs about and he goes, Rome! And it says, yeah.
Voice cracked a little there, mate.
Rome! And it's like, yeah, Cavill, okay. And now
I kind of forget that he's British, so he has an accent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now here's the thing.
The French accents are awful in this movie, but I love it.
When I got my my physical copy a few years ago, it had been a while since I had watched this, and I plugged it in, or maybe when I watched it before I got my physical copy again, I had fired it up, and it was post Man of Steel.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there watching it, and I remember I was in the other room. I'm there. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, is that Cavill?
Yeah.
And then I wound it back, and then I went and I got a check eye on it. Like, oh shit, it's Cavill, little Cavill,
Baby Cavill.
Baby Cavill, no muscles, no nothing, just Rome.
He looked so good in the outfits that he had. God, his costumes were amazing. I was just like, ugh.
And then I realized, yeah, he's gonna grow bigger. He's gonna become Cavill. Years later, it's like,
awesome.
wow. So I mean, and Cavill does a great job. I mean, now I'm gonna check if this was his first role or not. Hang on.
I don't think so.
Let me check.
I'm
at IMDb already.
So nice to see guys in like beautiful historical outfits.
This was his second role. This was his second role ever.
That's a pretty big role for like second role.
2001, he was in something called Vendetta, played Thomas. But 2002, Albert Mondego or Albert Dantes, however you want to say it. This was second time Cavill. So Cavill was literally Baby Cavill at this point.
Wow.
He started out good.
Yeah, he did. You know what I like about him is that he actually looks like he could be the child of Mercedes and Dantes.
Well, that's called good casting. That's called taking the idea of thinking, hey, two people of dark complexions, let's put someone who has dark complexions and features and put it in there. And the chin is still there. The Cavill chin is still right there. But I mean, it's great. It's great, and he does a great job. And I like the character of Albert too, because Albert, cool. When during the faux kidnapping, and not think he's real, it's like, okay, do your worst. The line, it's like, yeah, take my finger, whatever. I'm done. You're gonna beat me. You're probably gonna rape me. I don't care. Let's get it over.
Oh yeah,
with. That shit would have happened. Yeah, Drake, you know it. That shit would have happened.
Oh yeah, without question.
This is France. That shit would have happened.
No, they were in Italy at the time.
Italy. Oh, yeah, Rome. Either way.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
They're virtuous folks.
Whatever. It would have happened. But then, again, great choreography in that fight. And then he goes, but then the character of Albert, Cavill does a great portrayal of that desire of a son to want a father's approval. And everything he's doing to try and get Fernand's attention, approval, and Fernand wants nothing to do with him, even though he thinks he is his son. But then how instantly you see him get attached to Edmond as Monte Cristo. And it's like, man, you're my friend, my mentor already. And I love this. And of course, to Edmond, he's a tool at this point, has no idea it's his boy. But then all the way into the third act during the climax where he lunges in there, ready to defend his father, who he knows has wanted nothing to do with him his entire life, but still earns it.
Like, he's still a good person. Like, they're all good people. They do the right thing, even though it's like, well, you fucked me over. You're a shitty dad, but you're still my dad, right?
And it's even portrayed in that final moment after the duel is over in the grass and Fernand is dead.
He's just like, he's really upset. Like, that's
Edmond,
good.
yeah. Edmond's walking back to check on Mercedes, doesn't even touch the boy at that point, goes right for Mercedes, and Albert just drops to his knees And Jacopo's there to look after him. He's like, oh, don't worry about it, kid. It's all going to be all right. But he's devastated because the man he thought it was his father, the man who he had yearned, whose approval he yearned for 16 years, we'll say 15 after being a year old, we'll say 15 years, is dead. Even though he realized not just 5 minutes ago that he was willing to let him die in order so Fernand could get away. But he still had that moment of attachment. And again, Cavill, again, show don't tell. Doesn't have to say anything after that. He doesn't have another line after that part of the scene. It's just visibly there and broken there. And then at the end, when they're leaving the Chateau d'If, and then there's the now I'm with my real dad, and my real dad he loves me, and you can see that right there. So Cavill, baby Cavill, like Jed said, it was an outstanding role. I don't know if we'll call it a breakout role, but it's a great role to be in.
I consider a breakout role.
Okay.
Because that's the first time I laid my eyes on him. I didn't even know about the other movie, whatever other first movie.
It's been a year before, something called Vendetta.
I honestly had no idea who he was, but I was like, hey, I like this kid. I remember saying that out loud. Because because even though he was young, he was young, but he was like a child actor, but he was still like young 18. Enough to still suck on screen.
Yeah, he had steady roles all the way through. I mean, Goodbye, Mr. Chips remake, obviously. Midsummer Murders, Hellraiser, Hellworld. Nobody's watching Hellraiser movies at that point anymore. The Tristan and Soul. Yeah, still there. Stardust. That was a bad choice.
Oh boy,
I never watched that because I wasn't going to watch anybody in that movie. But then, like people mentioned, they were talking about in the chat. He was in The Tudors, apparently.
Yes,
he had a role in 20. Yeah, he was in The Tudors. Then in Immortals, which that's just a movie you turn your brain off to watch.
Yeah.
And I
think that's the one that made him an action star. I think that's the one that made him into an action star.
Well, 2 years later, he's Superman, and that's. Now, the Cavill we know, and after that, Man from U.N.C.L.E. and continue to be Superman, Mission Impossible. He had
another Man from U.N.C.L.E.
That would be cool. But he had steady work as a young actor all the way up until, like Dre said, Immortals probably gave him a look as a action star, and then, he's Superman, and now look at us. We're all bated breath waiting for him to put the suit back on again within the next year or so and give us some more Superman. So, I mean, that I would say that being in Count of Monte Cristo allowed him to continue to get steady work and a good performance, a good portrayal, and boom, it led him to be in the right place at the right time, to have somebody's eyes on him. So now we have Superman. And at one point, even though the overall thing's bad, we still loved him as Geralt. He was the reason we all watched it. But whatever. But the setups are great. Let me ask. All right, so not counting Fernand, out of the other two, basically jackpots, which is the one you like better, the Villefort or the ship captain guy whose name Bonbois. What was that?
Was it that guy that played Walder Frey?
No,
that wasn't. It looked like him.
Okay. No, he William Bradley. Yeah, he wasn't in the movie.
Oh, okay.
So I personally like the Villefort.
Absolutely.
Jackpot.
That was the best. And then it's like the same carriage, and you can't shoot yourself. Sorry. All
right, no. So I like that one better. Great. The other one's great because that's when he reveals for the first time. My friends, everyone knows who the Count of Monte Cristo, but my friends call me Edmond Dantes. And the guy's like, argh! And he hangs him to get him down before he chokes to death. Because he basically,
I'm not gonna hang.
it's like get him down before he chokes to death. Basically, the gendarmes are doing his bidding. To our point, he's a powerful aristocrat. They're going to do his bidding. They're so I love the Villefort band. Let's talk about that. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The Villefort jackpot, or the capture, the whatever you want to call it, the trap. I love it in the sauna. There's something about it where he's just stalking him from the shadows, poking him. He is in his finery, and Villefort's just in a towel, and he's defenseless. and he's not even physically going at him. It's all.
I like the
mental
great
jab,
part
mental
about
jab.
that scene is that he keeps jacking up the steam, and it's like there is
Mm-hmm.
like kind of the expectation that he's going to do something violent to the guy, but he never does. I think that's one of the great parts of all of this is that, like, you're so used to seeing like modern vengeance movies, like Tarantino movies, and you're just like expecting it to be horrible and violent, and really up until the end, none of that happens.
Well, Dantes only kills 2 people in the movie.
Yeah,
that's it.
He kills the warden, and he kills Fernand, both who deserved it.
Absolutely.
and Fernand was a fair by that era's rules. That was a duel. That's legitimate.
Legal.
That's completely legal. It's completely legal. But I love the whole Villefort thing where it's just basically, like you said, it's all mental. It's all circling. And
it's
again,
like I outsmarted you, and the guy just it's so great to see, like, he realizes how trapped he is, like, and he knows he's right. Like, there's no bargaining. It's just like, yeah, I did that.
And
it was very Few Good Men. That's what that scene reminded me of.
Well, he lures him. He not only gets him to incriminate himself, but then he gets the goods on Fernand because the gendarmes are right there. And in that era, it's perfectly fine for them to hear it. That's not there's no entrapment. That's what it is.
And also, like I used to love law. And also, an interesting thing about that is that what he was being charged with, he was being charged with conspiracy to murder. So with even in modern law, well, different depending on what state you're in, but when it comes to law, if it's a conspiracy, that means it's a hearsay that leads to the death of someone. So if that is the case and you admit to the hearsay, you can now be charged and, in this case, executed for said charge. So I thought everything worked so well with that because he's like when the cops are there, it's like, you're under arrest for conspiracy to murder. I'm like, yes, he is 110%. And like you said, Adam, entrapment didn't exist back then and all that stuff. But even if you measured it to the idea of the court of law to this point, since it is conspiracy and not the attempt itself on murder, you can still take that fool down. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was great.
I thought it was too, and it probably went to show how much his education helped him too.
Machiavelli, what we were talking about earlier, that it's Machiavellian. It's just all pulling it, and he's literally making him sweat.
Well, you know what's really Machiavellian about this whole thing is like I remember reading The Prince and stuff and thinking like, this isn't super evil. It's just like, it's the Machiavellian thing in this is that he learned the system so that he could defeat the people in their own system, in their own world, without having to do anything that was wrong. Like, it was just being a smarter player at the game.
Well, it's getting people to be first arrested and then convicted of the crimes they've actually committed.
Yeah, or just getting their own vices, using their own vices against them, like with Fernand.
Which is an important, comes back to I say that because remember, there was the line earlier where I think it was Priest says, do not end up committing the crimes you've been falsely convicted for.
Yeah, that was really good too.
Yeah, Edmund doesn't actually break really any crimes in the entire movie besides escaping prison and killing
being a smuggler. Being a smuggler.
Well, we don't actually see him do any of that, and we don't know what extent that took.
He was on the crew. He probably killed a few guys.
Maybe.
As far as French law is concerned, on French soil,
privateer.
He broke no laws.
He's a privateer.
Because at the time, nobody.
And even that you could argue, because was a guy like actually like pressed into service or not? I mean, if you were forced to serve these people against your will.
Yeah, it was. We're gonna slit your throat unless you do this. So that would coercion.
They became friends. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's all right.
But yeah, from what we see in the movie, like even like becoming an account, like if someone said, "Hey, he's not actually an account," he owns land. That's what makes him a count. So by French law, he's good.
And probably has the equivalent of billions of dollars.
Yeah, that was so much gold there.
I mean, it's just... I love it when they find the gold, and Jacobo's just like, yay! I've got crowns on, I'm wearing jewels. He's like doing happy dances, throwing it all around. He's just sitting there going... He's like, no, this money has a purpose. I'm not happy. But he's like, "Yay, we're rich! We're rich!"
We go murder a few people and let's celebrate.
Think about that. He was like, "Man, I'll go kill some people, baby. Just give me the names. We good. Let's get back to killing this treasure."
But then Jacopo was all on board. He liked the fine life. He liked it all. He dug it. They and it was a good life too. I loved.
And he adapted pretty well.
Oh yeah,
like even like the one mistake he made was intentional. Otherwise, he was a perfect manservant.
Well, I love it too during the final duel, and I want to lead us into this next part of the discussion, where Fernand has the drop he reloaded the pistol while Albert was running interference, and he's got the drop, and I'm going to do the most, and I love the line. You only have one bullet, and you know that's not enough to stop me. And I love Cavill. Oh my god, I love Edmond's. I just lost his freaking
Guy
name.
Pearce.
No. Caviezel.
Henry Caviezel.
We're throwing out so many names. I lost it. I love Caviezel's emotion that you have one bullet, and you know that's not enough to stop me. I love the intensity of that moment. And then Fernand's like, "Oh, then I have to put it where it does the most damage." And prior to that moment,
shoots a chick.
Prior to that moment, as he starts in Mercedes,
nearly got fridged.
You saw a quick clip of seeing Jacopo dropping the knife from in his sleeve. And because the movie set it up way back in Act 1 that Jacopo is one of the best knife fighters around when he's good with a knife. If he can fight with it, he can throw it. It's like Jacopo, he's ready for it. I love that moment. Jacopo's like, "Yeah, I'm ready. I got your back." And he throws it, and the deflection is just enough. So it's just a shoulder wound. He's just through and through. It's going to be fine. And then we lead into the duel. And the choreography in this movie is excellent. Because even though the actual fencing of that moment is brief, as a fencer, it's good, it's accurate, it looks good. Not completely formal, but still it's an actual intense life and death fight. But then it's not just the fencing, it's a brawl. When they lose the swords after the horse, they run at each other and tackle. It's a fist fight, throwing rocks, throwing dirt.
That was awesome.
Knowing that even though I don't have a weapon, I'm still going to use my gloved hand and my shirt to block a slash because I can survive that, but I'm not going to survive my getting cut in the head or things. So it's nuts. So what are we thinking about? Dre, we'll start with you.
So I as you say, Adam, you have the background in fencing, so you can appreciate the style and choreography of it. For me, it was the grit of it and the stakes that actually mattered in it. Like you mentioned beautifully. Well, first we have the deflected bullet, and then Mondegos on the run. But then it's that moment. See, this is when the lubricant's needed, because it's that moment when he looks out on the field.
That's a great shot.
Stops.
It's a fantastic shot.
And he stops because I know what's going through his mind.
He's like, I can just run away, and he's like,
good writing.
I can't go anywhere. Because one, now I'm a felon, so the law's after me. I have no money. I have no family. I have no
honor.
I have nothing. I have nothing left to lose. So me and you gonna dance. And I was there because it makes so much sense. Because we've seen so many movies of past and present when we see the villain escape and now he's on the way to do it again. Like, no, they break it down.
We got to
so
stop
beautifully.
You're roboting. You're freezing every 2 seconds. And at one point you're like this.
Yeah, you froze like that.
Just got to stop you. Make sure
that's what the lubricant was for.
Exactly.
But to your line, to go back to what you're saying, he has that line. I just can't live in a world where you have everything and I have nothing.
It's so simple.
It's so simple.
So well written.
Understandable.
It's like the Rings of Power. Like, I felt smart watching this movie. It's been a while since that's happened. And that's what these stories are supposed to be. Like Rings of Power, you should have trusted your audience. I miss stuff that trusted your audience to figure out. Like, we don't need a flashback to remind you that he did say Dantes to Mercedes. We don't need a internal monologue or just a random like, these are my character motivations. I am here for these reasons, and you are my enemy for these reasons, even though we've had a whole movie to explain why we hate each other. It's just so simple.
And a simple line, not embellish, just simple line. I can't live in a world where you have everything and I have nothing. It's just because we've seen that he is a complete self-absorbed narcissist. He likes to sleep with other men's wives. He likes to gamble. He likes the finer things. Likes to get drunk, and he doesn't care. because when he has power, no one's going to stop him. But suddenly, when it's all gone, that which fuels him.
You know what I liked about this movie too was like the use of like period firearms, and a lot of times they do it really unrealistically. And I've been thinking of this in my fantasy western story here, is thinking about how you'd actually use something like that, and looking at one point I was going to do like black powder weapons, but that's too complicated because you get the situations where you have in this movie where it's like you can't automatically reload. Like I actually thought like Fernand's like probably reloaded that thing pretty fast, almost like too fast, especially if you had to do the whole like powder in the pan kind of a thing, but it worked. I mean, they still had like there was a delay and stuff like that, and then in the beginning one he's like they shoot it but that's it, and it reminded me of that line in Pirates of the Caribbean where like the gun gets wet and he's like, oh, we could still use them as clubs. But it was good. And like the rifles, it's like they didn't have rifling back then, so the bullets didn't shoot them on the beach, which like a lot of people now would probably think that doesn't make sense, but like they weren't accurate back then.
It's basically lead balls being fired out of a thing. There's no accuracy, there's no aerodynamics involved. It's not a bullet that has been crafted to maintain trajectory.
It's just a like
or
a
force.
Shot.
We're not on the force.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of his gun in that scene, I really liked how it was, since he had a gun, just like how he said, one bullet's not enough to stop me later on, but he still wanted the gun unloaded. So he locked the one chest with the chest piece in it to make him shoot the lock. That was very intentional.
Oh, yeah, that did happen.
Damn, I didn't even, nice catch, dude. That didn't even
because, like, one bullet could still stop him. I know he's saying it for dramatic effect, but if he'd got a headshot right then, lucky enough, they were close enough, the fight would have been over. So he manipulated the environment in such a way, and he waited till that gun was discharged before he made his approach. So it would be on
excellent
catch.
Really I missed that.
Like,
wow,
good catch.
I love it. How many times have I seen this movie and that never even occurred to me? Excellent catch, Jed. Wow,
that is a good catch.
Yeah, but so all right, so Drake gave his feeling. I mean, Jed, when you're watching this final climactic fight, how are you feeling watching this fight overall?
So I love. Oh, go ahead, Jed. I'm sorry.
Jed, sorry. No, I cut you off, Dre. I'm sorry. Before, finish your final thoughts on that.
No,
yeah.
So like, I thought it was great. I love the grittiness of it. I love it got filthy. Because it's somebody that loves to see like a good, big climactic. Like I love good fence play. I compare like it's not fair, but I compare that.
This was a fight. This was a fight.
It was gritty and filthy and dirty. And like I compare this fight to two other fights that actually came out around the same time. One, of course, is Star Wars Episode 1, and how it's highly choreographed. It's beautiful sword play, but at the same time, it doesn't feel heavy, doesn't feel stakes, it doesn't feel like anybody's getting tired. Another fight I compare it to is James Bond Die Another Day, and it is a fight between Gustav Graves and James Bond. When they actually go, they start off fencing, but then they start getting long swords.
That's like the one scene of that movie I like. That's the one scene. I hate that movie. That's like the one scene I will enjoy.
How it just divulges into complete and utter chaos. And it just gets gritty and dirty, and there's sweat and there's blood and there's chaos. I love that scene. And this scene is the epitome of both of those. We start off with a highly choreographed, well-trained sword fighting, but then it all just divulges into filthy mongrel dirt mud wrestling, and I'm all in. It's because there's real stakes. Like, yo, if all it takes is one fatal blow, and the entire.
But then you have the whole backstory, like giving the impetus of the fight too. It's like they can't stop fighting until one of them is dead. They just can't. Like they're honorable people. Like,
and think about it like this again: symmetry. The last time they came to blows in Fernand's home, when
he was so crappy, he was such a bad fighter.
It's because he couldn't even do any sort of
and he cuts him on the hand
kind of
too.
Fight. Everything Fernand was in complete control with that sword. Edmond could do nothing. Whereas in this one, because Edmond is as skilled at the blade now and is already shown he can disarm him, Fernand is forced to other means of fighting. It's not just, I have the sword, I'm going to dominate this completely. You could throw things at me, you're going to miss. Because remember, in that office fight, he's throwing stuff, he's throwing it, and Fernand's complete control. This time, it's complete opposite. It's they're at equal level of terms of ferocity and skill, and it's just like I said, it's a fight. It's dirty. Everything is a weapon. Every moment counts, and it means something. So, Jed, have anything to add about looking at this fight?
Well, from a choreography standpoint, I don't know fencing as well as do like a broadsword medieval fighting, so I can't really speak much to that. But I miss when movie fights use the environment to their advantage. Like it's just always feels so static these days, but they were using the grass, they were using the horses, the rocks. Like they used everything that was at their disposal, and it just makes it feel more real than just one-off. Just when face each other, we do it. But
when the swords are lost in the grass, you're going like this. Oh, where is it? Can you find it in time? It's like you're like them. You feel the panic of I can't find a sword. Oh, he's got one. Shit, I got to find or rock. And he throws it. And you hear the as it hits him, and he gets it, and then they get you feel it. You feel it every part of it because it's show don't tell. It's good choreography. It's not the cheap ass shit that you see.
In terms of like, I'm thinking of this fight too. As I'm just sorry, I just caught this thing in my head as like a director. It's like if you were going to tell actors what to do to film this scene, is that like there's so much backstory informing how these characters are going to interact with each other. So it's so good that the story is so rich that you can you would be able to just kind of tell the stories. It's like this isn't just you having a sword fight with this guy. This is everything. This is the beach when you met Napoleon. It's like the jealousy. It's everything. Because as a director, it's like you need to have that understanding of the material to convey that to the actors. And it's so great because the acting was so good and the story was so solid that they were able to do that. And I would like other technical stuff I noticed in this movie that was cool was like I really loved that scene when Dantes is with Mercedes right before they sleep with each other, and the window and the lighting there is so beautiful, and the staging of it and the shot composition it was beautiful. Like I was like happy to see that again. I was like,
because it shows passion to get it right.
Yeah, and it's like it's just like an artistic stuff that like I think, you know, if we were talking to something about like what rewatching like Wheel of Prime, and it's like saying that people just shoot stuff with like giant like 8K cameras and then they just crop the shots, and that gives you
shaky cam.
Yeah,
there was no shaky cam here. I mean,
but when you do it that way, you don't get the composition, and that is just really pretty.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna wind this up, and I've got the one thing that we like. We're gonna do this every time, in my opinion, with something that elevates a movie: the music. I think the score is excellent, written by Edward Shermer. I think the score is on point every time. This scene here, the build up to the scene, the dun 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 as the invitations are going out, and in this scene where he comes off, dun,
the music was
dun
good.
dun, and again, same thing when the Villefort trap is complete, and he says, you didn't think I was going to make it that easy, did you? And he turns around. And he walks away. It's like, dun, 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 dun. The score hits it. Elvis, how do we feel about the score?
Everybody. I liked it. I thought it was good. I mean, sometimes like I tend to notice. It's like it's something that we've gotten so used to seeing in movies that like usually don't notice it unless there's something really bad. But like this one I was noticing it because of how much it heightened what was going on and how much it fit the period. Like that's a good, like a really kind of hard thing to do with period films, and like you can either use it to enhance the period like this one did, or you could use it to contrast to create something else, like say Marie Antoinette, like that Sofia Coppola version of it that has an amazing soundtrack, but they use like modern music to create like a totally different I
hate that.
I enjoyed it, but like it's just different, but like
Jed,
this was cool here.
Jed, how do you feel about the score?
I don't think it stood out to me quite as much as it did you, but it definitely did what it needed to. It was incredibly effective, and it felt like it belonged. Like I'm very much kind of like the music. If it's a historical film, it should match the era type person. So I really appreciated that it was very orchestral.
Yes,
and like it gave it epic feel in a lot of those moments.
Those moments I described, those are the epic moments. Dre, how do you feel about the music?
I liked it. I thought it captured the era very well. I think the one that stands out to me the most is when he decides he's going to be a count and throws the map into the flames, and you get the violin. You know, I thought like it felt adventurous. It felt like something that like we're about to get into something going. It really got me excited. So when you have music that's getting me fired up, getting me excited to keep going,
you're pulled in. You are pulled in.
The right thing.
All right, so we've talked about this at length. It's time to give this a rating. Since it's our premiere show and I chose the movie this week, I will go first. I give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. I give it 8.5 because the music elevates it over just an 8. Like you said, there are a couple moments here where I maybe want to see a little more of that in between years of when he was maybe building the count, but at a couple of average performances, but yet stellar performances, raise it up high. Can't quite get it to a 9, but at 8.5, I always enjoy this movie every time I watch it. I very rarely watch a movie multiple times in a year. I like to really spread it out. I've watched this movie already, I think, 3 or 4 times this year. Because I plug it in and it's
a good
chill
movie.
Out.
It's like it's positive.
All right, so Lady B, what would you rate it as your first time watching it? What's your rate?
I'd say it's like a solid 8, definitely. The story structure is there, the technical stuff works. Like there's some costume issues that like didn't work, but I would say the cut was really good, so I'll give them like I won't detract too many points for that. But I liked it. It was definitely, I mean, there was some technical things, like I saw some shaky pans, like when they were in the cave getting the treasure out of there. Like it wasn't, I'm not sure somebody that didn't study this would
You're coming at it from a technical perspective.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. That's why I love having you here, because you have a different perspective on some of these things that I'm not going to have. Jed and I are going to come at this stuff from writing or dialogue a lot. Dre's here, same, going to come at it from artistic and dialogue as well. But you're going to come at it from a technical angle, which we don't have. So that's great. So
and they did a really good job with like the wigs and stuff too.
Hair is getting hair right, and coming from living in a household with a professional hairstylist, watching every single movie, I got to always hear about hair. So when they get it right, when they get it right, I know when they've gotten it right because I hear about it.
I know, like I could tell that Fernand had like a lace front wig on, but it was very, very well like applied. And I guess because I studied for a while, I did costuming for a long time, but also studied hair and makeup. So I appreciated the good application of makeup on there.
You mean you didn't miss not having giant mutton chop sideburns, not quite
that aren't even like attached to the guy's face? Yeah. Oh,
yeah. All right, Jed, what's your rating on this?
Well, it's been about 5 or 6 years since I actually saw this movie, and I'm happy to say it's a lot better than I remember. I was really happy that I got to revisit it, and a lot of my praise for it comes from it just trusts the audience, and that might be a little bit of modern biasy, but there were so many moments where I'm like, that was well written. God, I miss this. I miss movies like this, like historical fictions, adaptations of books that just had a soul in them, that were creatively sound. So I actually ended up with the same score you did, Adam, with an 8.5. Very, very happy with a lot of it. And just like you, my main issues were a couple performances, like Mercedes, for example, that just didn't quite hit the mark.
She's the lowest one out of all the main cast. But then like a Richard Harris just
he elevates it. The one character that we didn't talk about that I briefly want to is Helen McCrary, the wife of the prosecutor.
Vilfor.
She was she was great in this movie. She's in so many other things that I've seen. Like she's in the Harry Potter movie. She's in Peaky Blinders, and she actually just passed away a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
But
she was in
fantastic.
One of my favorite shows is like Penny Dreadful too. She's one of the like witches.
I pulled out a Penny Dreadful halfway through the first season. I just lost interest.
I liked it, and then the way it ended was awful. Oh my god.
I know how it ended. Yeah. Dre, what's your score?
So this film is a 9 out of 10 for me. It's a 9 out of 10.
That's fine. I like that. Great.
It's a 9 out of 10. I love Henry Cavill. I love Guy Pearce as a villain. Anytime he's on screen as a villain, once again, as I mentioned before, lubrication.
Except for Iron Man.
Except for that was terrible. But like the score, like you said, the score works, the story works, The life lessons in it is what really grabs me deep. The life lessons, it's really, really deep. I love everything about it. It's actually on my Mount Rushmore of greatest films of all time. This film is one of my favorites, period. 9 out of 10. The only reason it doesn't get a 10 out of 10 is because I would have liked to see a little bit more, which is a bias. I would like to see more out of his piracy. I would like to see more to see how he develops.
Same things I could go for. I would have liked to see maybe a couple extra scenes. Now, on this, there are some deleted scenes. I didn't look at them. I never look at that stuff, but maybe there's some extra stuff in there.
Yeah, and it's covered in the book. Because I looked it up, it's 1,200 pages long, not 1,000. So it's a meaty, especially to end up being only 2 hours. It's pretty impressive.
But again, that's the thing. I think that's why I rated it high too. The adaptation. It's not one. It's not one for one, but it's fine. Good. I'm just putting everybody's. I'm writing out everybody's scores because I got a request once to make sure we have all the scores. So I'm just putting in all the scores for everybody here. And so there we go, guys.
It's pretty rare for us all to be within 1 point.
We're all within 1 point, half a point most of the
Yes, so, I actually like movies too.
Yeah, we like stuff. So go watch it.
We did choose a movie full of white people though. So
hey, Luis Guzman.
There's no diversity.
There's diversity. Luis Guzman.
He's the token high.
He's fine. Anyway, there you go. Go watch Count of Monte Cristo 2002. You get to see a baby Cavill. Jim Caviezel, excellent performance.
Guy Pearce.
It's great. Guy Pearce, excellent performance. Chicken Plate Mercedes, Richard Harris elevates the whole movie for the first act. Go see this. We recommend it. We all clearly recommend it. You'll have a good time. We promise you for the 2 hours.
It makes you feel good too. It's not depressing and nihilistic.
It's a happy end. It's definitely not nihilistic. It's about finding hope again and restoring faith in the end. So, all right. We thank you. If you're watching this on the replay, hit that like button, leave a comment. And also next week, we can tell you, Jed, what's our movie next week? Your choice.
It is the classic fantasy movie Willow.
We are doing Willow because we're doing the build-up for the TV show, and we're getting prepped for it and hoping for Meh. That's just one. So join us next week right back here, 7:30 p.m. Eastern for the live stream, Saturday Night Drive-In. And we hope you have a good evening, a good day, wherever you may be. I want to thank my panel for being here. We'll be back next week. And chat, we love you. We thank you as well. And if you're watching on the replay, we thank you for spending this time with us as well. We hope to bring you back next time. We hope to see you live next time. So with that being said, again, take it easy. Have a good, as I said, rest of your evening, wherever you may be. Good night, everybody.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of their women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Paul also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Now, come on, you can, monk boy.
Great God. Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. but it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach out to me at therentnerd@gmail.com. That email's for channel business only, so I check it on a daily basis. Also, you can find me at the Geeks and Gamers forums under @ROAS, and you can find me at Rumble and Odyssey, The Renaissance Nerd. Thank you again. See you next time.